So, yeah, congratulations on your third baby.
Oh, thanks, man.
And you said you got into fitness because just through having kids and owning a business, it got really busy. So it's hard to like fire on all cylinders, dedicate time to everything.
For sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
How long have you been hitting the gym hard?
Dude, I mean, I was hitting the gym hard, like I said, for a long time, and then, like I said, my 30s, it was kind of just maintaining, not as hard. And so what we do is we try to wake up early in the morning. We built a gym at our house, actually. I got mats, I got full on rack weights, I got treadmills, I got pulley machines, I got squat racks, everything in my. I mean, it's a full on like commercial gym. It feels like, and so we wanted to dedicate a lot to our health as well. But even then. So we try to work out in the morning before the kids wake up, and then obviously then we go to work, and then. But one thing I've been seeing too, it looks like you've really been dialed in with the Dan Martell method. Buy back your time.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been seeing. What you've been doing has been fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
One thing that I haven't done just yet. I'm still fully integrated in our business, and we're working toward that. So I would love to hear more pointers on how to initiate that. But other than that,
well, this year I'm very proud to say I actually finally hired somebody to come to my house twice a week, empty the dishwasher, do my laundry, take out the trash, clean the cat litter boxes, make sure their feeders have food, and water my plants. Because It seems like stuff that you're too, it's like, oh, I'm not too good to like water my plants. But if you really add it up, what was happening was I would like throw the laundry in, go do something else. Then the laundry would sit there for a whole day. And I wouldn't come back to it to put it in the dryer. But when I would a day later, it'd be like smelly because it's like sat wet. So then I have to start the whole process over again, right? So this person saves me at least 3 or 4 hours a day. Or a week, I should say. Not a day. She only comes twice a week.
She only comes twice a week?
Correct.
Gotcha.
But it's like $140 for her to come for a couple hours, 3 hours maybe. And then she can do stuff while the laundry's finishing. She can go do other stuff like get my mail. That's another thing she does. I mean, this stuff just takes time. So it's just more time I could focus on working out, as we were talking about, or growing the business, diving into something in the business that it's not urgent, but like it's important, you know? So it's just getting more of that time back or just using it to relax. So I am really proud that I was able to do that this year. And yeah, Dan Martell has been I hired him as a private coach in 2019, like back when nobody knew who he was. Right. And all that stuff he taught us. And then it's like came out in book form and I read it and I'm like, yeah, no, this is like exactly what he told everyone in our so before I did private coaching, I was in a group called JFDI.
Okay.
It stands for Just Fucking Do It. And it was his group of people, business owners that did 10 million or more. And he found out some people didn't have an executive assistant in the group. And he said, if you don't come back here if you come back here without an executive assistant, I can't help you anymore, and you're kicked out of the group. So everyone came back with an executive assistant who didn't have one.
Did anybody not have one?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. They had a $10 million revenue business and no executive assistant.
So the person who didn't have a $10 million business didn't have one. Are you talking about everybody didn't have
everybody one? To be in that group, you had to have a $10 million revenue business.
Right.
And I'm saying people didn't have an assistant.
Oh, gotcha.
And he said, if you don't have an assistant the next time you come back, I can't help you and you're kicked out.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody got one.
Everybody got one.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's good stuff. Good material.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I know that's a big thing with.
Is there anything going on specifically that you would have a question about regarding buying back your time?
Not at this time, man. I guess the question is, what direction do you want this podcast to go?
Well, I was going to ask you a bunch of questions.
I'm about to ask you more stuff. You're the guy. You're the guy to learn from.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I would say one more thing on. Well, yeah, if there's a way that I could help you or something you're curious about, yeah, absolutely would love to help you out. One thing that I was, what I firmly believed in was like, I need to learn how to do the task enough before I go hire somebody to do it. You want to hire to take things off your plate rather than hire to add capacity, right? So if I don't know how to sell something, I don't want to just go hire somebody to start selling stuff. I want to like learn how to sell it enough so that I can create a process that I feel is a good process. Then I want to hire somebody to come in and run that process. So that's like a different paradigm shift, right? People hire to add capacity, they get in trouble, they waste a lot of money, and it doesn't work out. But if you know how to do it to some extent, then you know if they're doing it well. You also have a process laid out for somebody to come in and follow. So that way they can actually know if they're doing a good job or not, and they'll be easier to manage, which will give you the result and a better chance of. So you always want to be taking stuff off your plate. And one day you're going to come into work and you're going to have nothing to do. And that's going to feel weird, but your business will be firing on all cylinders. Well, then you should go figure out what you can learn in your business, what next needs to happen that you should tackle first, figure it out a little bit, and then hire somebody to come in and run that next.
For sure.
Yeah.
One thing I know that's different between your business and the mastermind that we're at right now, the Collective Genius Mastermind. Now, not everybody in our mastermind is the same as what I do. So, for example, let's just kind of lay it on the table. I do wholesale real estate.
Yep.
I started with Your Fantastic. When I first started, I started with Your Fantastic app.
Yeah, back when we were driving for dollars.
It was a great opportunity to kind of get up and go. And I still tell people if you want your first deal, download DealMachine and go ham. Right now, we get big chunks of money, but then we got to go chase the deal again. What do you see? What do you see the difference, and what kind of advice do you give somebody in maybe my shoes to somebody who has recurring revenue? I think it's a fantastic. I mean, I have done so much research on like, okay, how can I get into a business, or what kind of business can I create that has a recurring revenue? And that's kind of what you're in, and I freaking love it. And I remember even years ago when we first started chatting, because I've been in the business now 5 years, and it's been a fantastic journey. It's got me the dream life that I've always wanted. And like I said, kids, I have 2 kids, wife, everything. I have a maid as well, and I have all the cool things. I buy back my time, because difference between you and I, when my kids mess up the house, they mess up, like I have the maid come, I get back home, we bring the kids home, it's like the maid, it feels like the maid wasn't even there. We work on them, obviously, and we always clean it up after ourselves. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, what do you tell people in my shoes when you talk about type of businesses such as recurrent revenue?
Yeah. Well, I think the grass is always greener on the other side. So I get the lure of like, oh, wow, he just gets revenue no matter what he does.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do anything. But the truth is, I mean, a lot of our revenue is from new people learning how to do real estate. And it's very hard to start a business. So
yeah,
it's you have to fill the bucket just as much as the bucket leaks out, meaning people quitting. So I would say like the average person stays 9 months.
9 months, okay.
Yeah. We might have 300 people sign up one week, but 280 quit. And if your marketing then goes down and you only have 200 people sign up, then you have 280 people quit. I mean, is it better than just finding wholesale deals so you can make 40? What's your average wholesale deal?
Last year was 43.
$43,000 average.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, is it actually better than that? I don't know. It might be nicer to scale because it's technology, but the reason why technology is like a higher premium, I guess, if you were to sell the business, is because it's like very expensive to create and maintain as well. And you always have to innovate. The 2 recurring revenue business models I'm really familiar with is club memberships like Collective Genius and software. So if you notice at Collective Genius, Jason Medley always says, I know how quickly a good thing can go away if you get a little bit too comfortable or don't pay it enough attention, right? I don't know if you've heard him say that.
No, I haven't.
He's been less on stage over the past years, but I always paid attention to him saying that. They're always evolving, right?
Okay.
So it's like they created... they brought Brian Snyder in as the COO.
Oh, nice.
Now all of a sudden we have workbooks. Like when we show up to this meeting, we have workbooks that has the exact schedule, places for us to write our notes.
Yeah.
It used to be everybody broke into small groups whenever I first started here. And you would spend the entire 3 days just hearing from each of the 20 people in your small group do a 20-minute presentation on their business, what they're doing well, what they need help with. And the group would like diagnose it. I actually like those days. But
do you like those days?
What I'm trying to say is like whether it's a club membership or a software membership, you have to keep innovating. You have to keep changing and
Of course.
developing. I don't think that your ability to build a systematized business that runs without you in wholesaling, it's not like easier or harder than it is in the software, right? Because
Mm,
it still requires like systems that people follow, innovation from someone, whether it's you or someone else. And I don't think you need innovation in wholesaling, honestly, right? It's like pretty proven business model.
mhm.
Marketing that you're doing might change, kind of goes in rotation from, oh, maybe direct mail's working, and then we go to our masterminds and tell everybody SMS is working. And
Mhm.
then everybody jumps on SMS over the next year, and then that stops working. Now cold calling's working. We tell everyone on our masterminds that it's working. Everybody does it. Now it doesn't work as well. So it goes in a cycle. So somebody needs to be following that cycle, but you could hire a COO and step out of your business and to do whatever you want. It's recurring for you
Mhm.
because the business is working and operating.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I want to point out too, and all the listeners too, I am incredibly lucky to sit here and to be invited by you, such an incredible, successful individual as yourself. Um, Let me ask you this: before we hopped on the camera too, we talked about leadership, we talked about systems, processes. Tell me about the things that you put in place to keep that going, so you could go out and you could go drive cars, you could keep your fitness, you could hire the maid, you're able to kind of buy back your time, as we were just talking about from Dan Martell. What things have you put in place? And give me, just to give you a quick example, I'm talking about like stuff that I've done in my business is, I use Trainio. I record myself a lot. I use ChatGPT to make SOPs. What
Hmm.
have you done to kind of put things into perspective? Did you hire somebody to give you a playbook? How's your onboarding process? What does that all look like?
Yeah. So I drive cars from Thursday through Sunday a lot of times.
There you go.
And I'm 8 years into business. So when I first started out, it was just me and I did everything. I
Hmm.
coded the app. And then I went to meetups and I told people about the app. And then they wanted to use it. So I set up a payment processor and let them pay for the app.
Mm.
Well, the app needed to look better. So I had found my business partner and I asked if he'd make the app look better, be my 50% business partner.
Oh, is he still your
Then he
part?
took over the development after that point.
Hmm.
I did everything else. We had enough money to pay ourselves $3,000 after 2 full years of both of us working for free, not
Mm.
getting paid for 2 full years. So then we each paid ourselves $3,000 a month. So at that point, when the business grew, I could no longer keep up with the support chats. So I hired Elise as our customer success manager.
Nice.
Yes, and 2 months into her stint, we doubled again in size. She could not keep up with the support chats either. So we hired two people under her to answer support chats and
Mhm.
let her be more one to one with people who needed extra help. As we grew, basically, I have 7 departments and they each have a department head. So they all report to me. I do one on ones with them every Monday,
There you go.
but they're the ones who are executing on the vision every single day throughout the week.
Mm.
So recently I had to step in because the customer support was not as good as I thought it was. So I
Okay.
dove in front lines to see what's happening. And I could have fired the person leading it,
Mhm.
but I didn't do that. Instead, I said, hey, what of my policies are making your job hard?
Hmm.
Yeah. And I got a lot of good feedback. We implemented 4 of the 10 right away. And then every day, the first thing I did for like 3 weeks was I would spend 3 hours pouring through customer support chats, giving the team, building a presentation and giving it to the team every day. Hey guys,
Wow.
this was a situation where I didn't like how this was answered. I'd love it answered this way.
Hmm.
Hey, this was another example where I didn't think this was the best way to answer it. I'd love it answered this way. So just going through and spending a lot of time. And now, as far as I could tell, like I could stop spending my time doing that, put the leader back in place, but I let him see how I like trained the team and handled that. Right. So it's always my fault if it's not going well because I hired the
Yep.
wrong person. I didn't manage them well. Um, yeah, it's or there's a bad policy. Like that's
Mhm.
all on me. So that was how I kind of took ownership, fixed it, and now I have more of my time back because it's kind of
Yeah.
operating again. So I just kind of slowly figured something out until it was very, very repetitive for me. And at that point, I hired someone in to come and take it off my plate.
Where'd you learn to be such a good leader?
So I did work with a private coach, was in Dan Martell's software group.
Okay.
And then we got into the big group as our company grew. So software group's called SaaS Academy.
Yeah.
And then JFDI is for like the 10 million or more revenue company. And then I did private coaching for a year after that.
Nice.
That was definitely the biggest
So
growth that I
was the
personally had.
yeah.
He would bring authors of books to come speak with us.
Wow.
And one of the best books was The Great CEO Within. Matt McCary came and taught us how to have hard conversations.
Yeah.
So with a growing team, that was a really useful tool that I still rely on like every week for sure.
What's the book called? The Great CEO?
Yeah, The Great CEO Within.
That's a good. He actually just came out with a video too with a bunch of different books, and I thought it was fantastic. I think I bought like 3 new books off of that. So
Matt McCary or Dan's recommendation?
Dan's recommendation.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
One thing as a busy father and a husband, the best time I read my books are in the morning on my treadmill. So I wake up in the morning, I'll slap my headphones on and I just walk, and that's where I get a lot of my steps in. I work out later in the day, but that's where I get my reading in because my kids don't just jump on my lap and stuff. And I'm able to blow through like at least 2 books a month. What are you? When are you able to read? And give me your probably the best recommendation book that you're thinking.
Yeah, so I read about like 10 pages a day.
Nice.
And so that ends up being like 1 book a month.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So right now, early on, I read about growth hacker marketing, which is basically a way to automatically trigger referrals happening. Yeah. And so in the app, the way we did that was we were like, hey, one great story. So PayPal rapidly grew because they gave their users like $10 of credit if you referred someone else.
Yeah.
Like not everybody can just give cash, but like PayPal they could because of their business model, and they were kind of a financial like thing anyway, so it made more sense for them. Dropbox, they couldn't figure out paid ads to grow Dropbox. But when they figured out how to actually get referrals from everybody who came in from paid ads, they gave away like 50 megabytes for free, which was a lot back then. And then the paid ads became like worthwhile because then you could get 5 customers for every person who responded to the paid ad. So it may look different from business to business, but it is rigorous testing in your like intake process. So I don't know about referrals from sellers, but it could be with agents that you interact with, that you ask for referrals in a different way that might make it more profitable to do ads or to pay for marketing to go get like a direct to seller lead.
Yeah, on our side we get that's pretty simple, obviously JV stuff. But let me ask you this: what have you implemented in your business for DealMachine to kind of with the referral stuff?
Well, yeah, back in the day, it was like share DealMachine, and you'll actually go get like $5 of credit to spend on mail.
Okay,
that was the original, like
gotcha.
8 years ago. I read a book called Growth Hacker Marketing.
Oh, so this was a while ago. Yeah,
installed that. Now I'm reading a book called Hacking Growth, which is a lot thicker book, different author, just similar topic, and it's all about running tests. So if you can run 10 tests per month, and your competitor can run 1 test per month, in terms of like your process for intaking a lead and then dispositioning the lead, right? Like however you do that. If you can run tests, if you can run more tests, you're going to be able to find the best efficient way to like sell that lead or dispo that lead. So the big takeaway is like always be testing. Don't just get stuck in this is just the way we do things, but always be running at least a test.
A book that Dan Martell recommended, gosh, I forgot what it's sitting on my kitchen table right now, but he talks about that, and I know you're probably really good at this now, but once we get really good at generating revenue, I think that's the biggest goal, right? And I know that you, like you said, the first couple of years was a little slow, but then growth took off. Same with myself. One thing that I'm working on right now is okay, we got really good at generating the revenue. How do we keep the revenue? What have you done to put in place to make sure you keep all your revenue and build your wealth?
Yeah, it's tough when all your employees are just hourly and maybe they don't keep an eye on things as closely as you'd like, I think. We really wanted to aggressively grow, and I made a lot of mistakes hiring 20 people in positions that didn't actually drive revenue. So we went in 4 years in business without doing any marketing. I mean, sure, I was going to meetups and like talking with people, but then a lot of the growth was driven off of their social medias. We weren't doing the marketing. So I thought, oh, if we have more product and engineering, our company will grow. Because we grew by investing in product and engineering at the beginning.
Yeah.
So they're also pretty expensive hires, right? So I hired a lot of engineers, testers, and expensive people to manage the engineers and testers. And so that really shrunk a very profitable company became like not profitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was worried about letting them go. What would that do to our culture? How would I feel about it as a person after making them feel they could come quit their job and have an amazing opportunity at my company? But now it's not working. So like, what do I do? Yeah, that was tough. What I ended up doing was luckily when you hire fast, like not everyone's a good fit. And so they just quit anyway. And I also was transparent with the finances. So I'm like transparently saying what's going on. People can see it, right? And so that caused people who weren't really bought into the mission to go find something else, which was good, but I didn't have to fire them to do so. Through transparency, they just kind of put two and two together and decided this wasn't the right place for me.
Yep.
And then people were wondering, oh, well, are you going to pay me twice as much since I'm doing two persons job? So it required communication again to say, no, you should prioritize what the most important thing is and only do that during your working hours. So those were two things we did to improve the profit, right? Not just the gross. I would say I feel like it's like raise expenses and then slash expenses, raise expenses, slash expenses. Because you have to raise expenses to try stuff, but then somebody's got to circle back around and cut the stuff that's not working. So we used to spend $500,000 on one particular ad source for like 4 years. And it just wasn't producing what it used to be. And your business, it shifts as more people come in and do radio ads. Your radio ads aren't going to be as effective.
Yeah.
And so just always paying attention to that and making sure you're shifting at the front end of what's starting to work rather than at the back end of what everyone else is already doing, I think is a good strategy. But then just simply like ruthlessly going through your P&L and looking at your ratio compared to what it should be in maybe at your peer companies. And just cutting what's like not working, trim the fat, cut tools that you don't need. Like, do you need to spend $2,000 a month for an AI note taker, especially when like nobody's reading the notes?
Nobody's reading those notes.
My company
AI makes such a long notes. Nobody's reading.
So this is so funny. I told my company, buy the AI tools. Everybody should be using AI in their job to help them work faster.
Yeah.
But the AI note taker, I'm not a big fan of. And I'm like, oh man, I spent $2,000 on this thing. And I told them to buy AI stuff. But the notes, the advantage of like taking notes is actually when you write something down, it makes you remember it more. So if you're just letting AI take notes for you, I know you're not ever looking back at those notes, right? It's like the act of taking the note is actually like the beneficial thing. So that was just one random thing.
I like what you said there when you said raise up, cut expenses, and what?
Not through personnel.
I know.
There was one guy in here who used to say he fired everyone in his company every 3 years.
That's not what
I'm talking about, like marketing channels,
right?
Yeah, tools.
That's not the direction I'm headed in. But I never heard somebody say that because I'm a very, and again, I could be totally wrong. I might be super immature in my business. I'm not an 8-figure earner yet. But one thing that I've always understood, to me, in my philosophy is, you want to be able to learn how to build a company up that can let's say gross 8 figures. Learn how to get it there. And then, because obviously we always want to focus on profit. Absolutely. That's your always end goal. But I need to learn how to even build a company that can make 8 figures. Let's say I'm able to do 5% profit, but I build an 8-figure company. And then you look back and you say, hey, well, cut. We know now how to get here, but let's go look back and let's cut everything, right? Yeah. And you should always stay profitable. But my thing is, obviously learn how to build that 8-figure company. I could be wrong, but I'm always saying, hey, okay, how can you become that person to build such a large company and then come back and make those large profits?
Yeah. So I read Profit First, actually, from
the
very beginning.
We practiced that, yeah.
Okay. That was really helpful for us to force profit, because it feels like so classic entrepreneurs like funnel all your time and all your money back into growing the business. But
Yeah.
if you're not making any money at home, if you don't have money to take care of your family, if things are tight and you're always making bets in your company and many of them aren't
Mm,
paying off, it can really wear you out and burn you out, right?
for
So
sure.
Profit First told me for every $100 that I make, I'm going to save 35, and that's going to go to me.
For sure.
And then like 20 of it actually goes to me, and 15 of it goes to this tax savings account.
Hmm.
So yeah, we ran the business from that way from the very beginning. And so it's
Nice.
very helpful when you're making a lot of money. You should have a lot of profit. Otherwise, it's not a healthy business and it's putting your employees' jobs at risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but as somebody who didn't have a lot of money growing up, it did feel weird, and it has felt weird at times to be making a lot
Yeah.
of money. But Profit First, like, kind of gave me permission and told me it was okay.
Hmm.
But then when things weren't going well, it also says, like, don't starve yourself to preserve the business. Run the business with the 60% that's left over.
Hmm.
And if you can't run it with the 60% left over, then you need to make some cuts in your business, not a cut in your pay.
Mm.
So that was a helpful thing that guided us through the good times and bad times.
Nice. And like I said, I definitely practice Profit First as well. And what I mean by that, what I mean by what I said earlier is, for example, in a wholesale flipping business, a lot of times if you're running direct to seller, you're about a 40% on a good profit. You're 35 to 40% profit. Um, Obviously with marketing expenses and overhead and all that stuff. On a other type of business, maybe direct to agent, you might be running a you know 60 to 70% profit. Now here's the thing, and obviously because this is your viewers might be seeing this, but obviously a direct to agent kind of business too, somebody might could maybe hit the $1 million mark. And well, let me take a step back. In the same type of business of doing direct marketing, but let's say my gross revenue is a million, making 30 to 40% profit. I'm going to want to push it to see what so I could make 60% profit. Let's say if I'm direct to agent, which is not super scalable, and I'm able to keep 600,000. I'd rather push my business to the 4, 5, $10 million mark at a 40% profit, because I'm going to make way more than 600,000. And so what I mean by that is, like I said, I want to learn how to always push the business. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm always making sure we build profits. I'm always having meetings with my CPA, my accountant, every single month. I have constant meetings with them. But what I'm saying is, like, because obviously, the law of the lid, and really pushing yourself to grow to become, and again, you're already there, but I want to learn how can I push this to become a, 8-figure business. You know what I mean? I'm always going to keep that 40, 30, 40% profit anywhere. So hope that makes sense.
Yeah. I guess you have to be better at marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You're just doing more deals, right?
Exactly.
Or you're selling more to the people that you're already selling
Exactly.
to. So, like, I guess in real estate, if you do sell somebody a wholesale deal, what do they need to do next? Construction. What can you provide them that would increase the amount you're making off of their purchase of your wholesale deal?
Mm-hmm.
Construction might be one of those things.
Yeah, and the cool thing with this business, obviously, it's just spend more on marketing, hire more sales reps. Like, it's always the thing. But what comes out in our industry, and again, in our business, it's where do those systems come in place? Who are the producers? One thing that we found when I leveled up into becoming these rooms, such as with individuals like yourself, in the wholesale industry, it's phenomenal. And what I mean by that is I'm in a market with an individual that is doing a couple million a month in deals. It's real mind blowing, because you're like, okay, how do I get there? Right.
Because you feel like you're maxed out where you're at.
No, not because I'm in the same market. So, but one thing, so you're always thinking like, okay, well, do I need more sales reps? Do I need So again, it goes back to where this team is so lean and mean. I think they have like 3 to 4 sales reps. They spend a crap ton on marketing, and they're able to kind of give that return on ad spend. They're able to make that couple million. Anyways, that's where we're at right now. Is we want to stay lean and mean, make a couple million a month in market in revenue. And we're in a very good market here in Southern California. I keep pointing to Dallas, but in Southern California, so our average deal sizes are ginormous. So we just need to work on conversion. So that's one where we're working on our business right now, is just the conversion cycle.
Got it. So you answered your own question.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to get
I'm
is
just,
your conversion cycle longer than that Phil's business?
I didn't mean conversion cycle. I meant the conversion with the leads. So I'm just
The
shooting the crap.
conversion rate.
Yeah.
Okay. So that
And then so obvious. So again, we're kind of new. We're kind of new in what we're doing, and we're kind of shifting gears right now because obviously we could talk about where I'm into my business, and if you want to talk
we
about,
should do that because it's hard to answer a question without knowing, I guess, more about it. But
yeah,
tell me about your whole operation. Like in summary, this is what you do.
there we go. So what we do now, so we're in Southern California. We are a wholesale operation. We have three, we call them outside sales reps. We have four inside sales reps. We have two dispositions. Me and my wife are partners. We have a transaction coordinator, so pretty lean and mean. We have leads. We spend a crap ton of money on leads. Leads come in. We all inbound leads. The setters, they're on a shift schedule, working from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. So catching all those leads that come in. And then we go in-person appointments with our acquisition guys from LA all the way to San Diego. So they do about 2 appointments a day, following up their hot leads, dealing with any pass-offs from the setters. But we just implemented a full belly-to-belly kind of cycle this year. Last year was kind of a hybrid. We were still locking a lot of stuff over the phone, had the in-office kind of mentality, but now we're hiring sales reps in every single county in Southern California.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. Have you
Yeah.
seen in person is better than on the phone? Or you
Yeah.
have some data that told you that?
Yeah.
How did you do the test?
I just listen to people that are doing way more than me. And so we did under 4 million in our wholesale operation. And obviously people that are doing way more than me. That's the way they did it, is they're belly to belly. They still lock stuff over the phone, but yeah, we want to get in person on all these deals. So we did well, kind of locking stuff over the phone. We did the whole back in 2023. We did we went and got the shiny object syndrome, and we tried the nationwide model. We did okay, but then once we went back in our market backyard, dominated and building the brand, we just tripled our business. And then
through like what, SEO or pay-per-click, or that's how you dominated building your brand?
Yeah.
Cool.
So
and that's easier to do locally than like virtually everywhere, right?
Yeah, definitely easier to do locally. And but now we're fully in person. I was a big component. I never believed in lead managers prior to this, and then when I got into our amazing group here, I really got that. A lot of the great companies here have really preached those lead managers and setting appointments, especially when your guys are on the road all day. We want people to still be calling those leads, still take those inbound calls. It wasn't a big deal when everybody was in office making calls.
Yeah.
And kind of ran that what would you call boiler room era. Well, now that we don't do that, everybody's at office. Now I got like an empty office, and I still go to my work in office. I still got my disparate reps there, my TC, but I used to have a bunch of sales reps in there, and now they're all on the road, and got a beautiful polo on, and knock on sellers' doors and lock on deals in person. So.
Are they actually knocking on doors like cold?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
they're going to appointments that call.
They're going to appointments
Yeah.
set from the setters.
Got it. Do they ever come in the office at all?
Not. We're a little bit, but we're like no. So the schedule is in the morning, from 8 to 9 we do training. So we do a Zoom training. Everybody's on the training, and then appointments don't start until 10 on. I want everybody to do about 2 appointments a day. Everybody should be calling up their hot leads in between appointments, and then just going. So
how do you do the trainings? What materials do you cover, and what like format do you use every day?
Yeah, that's a great question. We go over the basics. So I was a firefighter back in the day. What do? We always went over the basics. Same stuff we learned in the fire academy. We just so when they came through and did their onboarding. So we just onboarded a new sales rep. He actually did come to the office. We got him a hotel room and everything, and he came in the office, and we did training, role play, went through Trainio, watched a bunch of videos, and just made sure he understood everything, and understood the culture, core values, and mission statements. And then and now he's shadowing all the sales reps right now. So he just kind of he's just meeting them all at their properties right now, just watching them, and then we're gonna reverse, and the guys are gonna watch him on his appointments, and so. It's just going over the basic over and over and over
Every day, or is it
every day,
switch it up a little bit every
every day.
day?
Every day is the basic. So we're a lot of times we role play, we listen to calls, we go over the scripts, we go over end zone opportunities, we go over numbers, why certain things are important, and then we just drill it over and over and over. So it can come up repetitive, but just like they should be doing, they should be going into every appointment, not having to think about it.
Got it.
Just like when I was a firefighter, I went on a call, I didn't have to think about it because I did the training.
It's so many times. Any
Mhm.
other mindsets from being a firefighter that carried over to being a successful entrepreneur?
Organized and minimalistics. So minimum. I'm very minimalistic. So everything has its place. If you don't need it, take it off the truck. And kind of the same thing in the business. If you don't need it, take it off get it out of your business.
Hmm.
I live by a model: simple scales, fancy fails. So
Yeah, simple is beautiful.
yeah, and and funny thing is, it's hard. It's hard to do that.
It is hard to simplify.
It is
Yeah.
hard to simplify.
So, why did you get into real estate? What inspired you? Tell me about when you started the business.
When I first got into real estate, I picked up a thing called DealMachine back in the day, and I actually did a podcast with you a couple years ago. And what got me into real estate were my kids. I went into a custody battle, and over my little girl, I ended up getting this individual knocked up. We were probably dating for just a couple months. She ended up going a different direction, and I don't want to go too much into it, but long story short, I got into a custody battle with this individual, literally while she was pregnant, because she tried to flee the state, give her up for adoption, et cetera, et cetera. I decided to, I was in the fire department at the time. I needed to figure out how to make more money. Back in the Navy, I was in the Navy as well. I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I picked up that book because I didn't take action when I was in the Navy, but my why drove me, which was my newborn daughter that was coming. I picked that book up and I said, real estate is the answer. I picked it back up. I went on Google. I said, how do I get in real estate without no money? Wholesale real estate came up. Wholesale Inc. came up. I gave Wholesale Inc. $5,000 on a credit card that I couldn't afford yet. 2 months later, I got my first deal for $20,000. I, $10,000 to my newly family law attorney and $10,000 back into my
Mm-hmm.
what's it called, back into my business, and then just kept going. And I think a couple months later, I quit my job. I met a beautiful woman who is now my wife. She ended up helping me with the custody battle and be a partner in my business. She's the reason why all this has happened. I have now 2 kids with her, and I have full custody of my daughter. And so every single day, it's just trying to be the best dad and husband I could be through wholesale real estate, man.
I remember that story. Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing it again.
Yeah. And obviously when I first started, DealMachine was a huge aspect to that. And I think DealMachine, I pinned a property back in the day when I was driving for dollars. It was a little town called Banning in Riverside County. I pinned a property. I think I cold called it. I went on an appointment back in the day, belly to belly, young lady. I still remember it. She had 2 kids. She was trying to escape from, I guess, an ex-boyfriend herself. This is a seller. And I go in and we talk about price, and that property was worth, I think, gosh, let's call it 300,000. She sold it to me for 55. I know she sold it to me for like 60,000, I think. I ended up reselling that property, or reselling the contract, to a buddy of mine, actually, who's a good buddy of mine to this day, for like 105,000. So I made 55,000 off that property, and it was a life-changing deal, because what happened is Zach Booth, a good buddy of yours, he calls me up as I was on a date with my girlfriend at the time, says, hey, you should quit your job. You have a $55,000 deal. Why don't you bet on yourself? Quit your job. I said, oh, that's crazy, because obviously I worked my butt off to become a firefighter.
Right.
I said, why would I do that? He said, but I mean, this is life-changing money, right? I've already done a couple deals. I got a 55K banger coming down the pipe. And my girlfriend and my wife now, she said, yeah, do it. And she's like, I'll take care of the kids. And so a couple weeks later, as the deal was closing, I was in the app bay on my phone, refreshing my bank account. And as soon as the wire dropped in my bank account, I went over to the chief's office, gave him my 2 weeks notice, and it was done, man. And then I went wholesale for full time, and now I'm hanging out with you guys like you and everybody here at CG.
It's a great way to be.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
Have you had any low points in the journey? Because to
Never.
be here, I mean, 55K, obviously big deal. To be here, you got to be doing near 100 deals a year.
Yeah.
So you've achieved a level that very, very few achieve.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was what was like a tough part along the way?
Well, I always tell people, if you want to succeed in business, and you know this very well, is the one piece of advice I always tell them is, one, get in touch with your deeper why, and then two, be obsessed about it. I'm a big component of the one thing, so I went all in on wholesale. I didn't get fancy with creative stuff, flipping, anything like that. I just wholesale, and let's do it well. You know, like I said, we've been doing this for 5 years now. Did a little under 4 million last year. You know, did a crap ton of deals last year. The low points are, you know, just like anybody, you know, interest rates changed, buyers, you know, hiring, firing, systems, processes, literally learning how to do business, right? A lot of people think that real estate is just a deal here and there. No, you're learning how to be a business owner. And that's how I run my business. Just like the E-Myth is, I want it to be a nice conveyor belt. I want it to be simple. I want it to just be on repeat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I want my guys to go out to do deals. Like when they're out, they just need to be able to be really good at getting deals as low as possible. My dispo girls need to be really good at selling the deal. My TC needs to be very systematic and organized. And then it's just repeat, you know. And then so when you talk about low points, like you said earlier, it's having those difficult conversations. You know, a lot of people don't make it in business in general, not just real estate, but they're not able to level up their leadership. They're not able to have difficult conversations. They're not able to deal with litigations. They're not able to do, you know, when things get hard, understand you'll be okay. You'll be okay. You know what I mean? But what you should do is like what you did is find a mentor, get around good people that are doing the same exact thing, add value to others. Before you go reach out to David Lecco to ask him a question, make sure you add value to him if you can. That's something that a good buddy of mine coming up told me is like, if I wanted to get in touch with somebody who is doing more than me, how can you add value to that person? I promise you they'll look back and say, you know what, don't even worry about what you just said, but what question do you have, right? And back at me, you know, when people are in my DMs, you know, that you better add value before you just want to take my time. You know what I mean? I'm a father, I'm a husband, I got a business to run. I'm a coach first to my employees and my kids before anybody in my DMs, right?
Yeah. What's an example of how they could provide value?
That's a good question. It could be anything. It could be, you know, what would you call it? Money wise, you know, if you want to go say, hey, I'll give you whatever you want to pay, you know, whatever the cost is, I'll pay you for your time. You know, a lot of people don't understand that when you reach out to somebody who's doing things that are, a lot of times we probably won't even charge you. You know what I mean? We might just answer your question. But if you just first go ahead and tell them that, hey, I will pay you for your time, it's huge. And sometimes they might give you a price. You know what I mean? I've reached out to people and they say, yeah, this is my price. This is my price to talk to me for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. It's just a consultation price. Like you said, you paid Dan Martell a crap ton of money to get in his room. I'm about to drop a bunch of money to hire another mentor for myself. When I first started to get that first deal, I paid $5,000 to talk to the people that were teaching me how to wholesale, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. But it's not taking you out to coffee. It's not taking you out to dinner or anything like that. We could pay for our own dinners. You can pay for your own coffees. And there's other ways too. If you want to figure out other ways, just ChatGPT. How to add more value to somebody else? I promise you'll give you a crap ton of reasons.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
What's one of your highest highs that you really experienced through doing the business, other than making a $55,000 deal?
Man, my highest highs is giving me an amazing life. You know, I haven't fully bought back my time, but I bought back a lot of time. But my highest highs is probably paying my wedding off in full. I've like the wedding that I had, I would have never imagined I could have had. I mean, I always thought I was gonna have to like be on a budget and stuff like that. Dude, I had the most incredible wedding. I bought the most incredible ring for the most beautiful woman.
Because of wholesaling.
Because of wholesale real estate, you know. Because I worked my butt off, right, to do deals, to learn sales, to learn the process, and I was able to buy my house. I was able to buy my dream truck. You know, all the material things are pretty much covered. And now it's just, now we're kind of at a point where we're just stacking away to build our wealth now. So now we're at a, because I came from no money as well.
Mhm.
I lived in a very single mom. You know, dude, when I would try to play football back in high school, I had cleats that had like two, you know, those like screw on cleats. I had like two
They'd break
cleats.
off.
Yeah, I couldn't. My mom couldn't afford it. Like, dude, I don't know. And I haven't told too many people about that, but I couldn't afford crap when I was a kid. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And even into my, um, you know, teenage years and stuff like that. So I think so. All I wanted to be able to, all the things I could never have bought, dude. I got, now I'm driving like, I don't got any cool race cars, but you know, I got a nice, beautiful truck now. You know, we got the house. I'm able to get my kids whatever they want when they want. But obviously, I don't do that. But I'm able to give my kids. My kids are in a Christian private school where Christ is centered there, and they're able to, you know, be in a beautiful school. And that's something. I mean, their education is just taken off because of that school. Like my little girl was kind of reading. She started kindergarten at this new school, and now she's like reading books like crazy. You know what I mean? Like the amount of that kind of education that she could buy. You know, so those are some highs.
Wow, that's awesome. Why don't you have any race cars?
Because I'm not hanging out with you enough, man.
Well, I'm really glad your kids are in a good school. I mean, I don't have any kids, but that'd be something that'd be important for me if I
Yeah.
had kids, and to feel that they're taken care of. Now, you said you don't get them everything they want all the time. So can you talk about what's your mindset in teaching your kids not to be spoiled, you know, or do you have any mindsets on raising your kids?
Dude, that's a good question. Are you planning on
Because I
having
feel
kids?
like, no, yeah, I'll have kids at one point, but
Nice.
I feel like I didn't have a lot, so I appreciate a lot. And
Same.
I
Yeah.
figure, well, I have a lot now, so my kids would feel that,
Yeah.
and I'd still want them to have good character traits that that
100%.
I value, which
Right.
is like hard work, and it's just hard to appreciate what you have when you haven't had a tough time.
Yeah. You might have heard this. So you know who Brian Tracy is? Brian Tracy
No.
is like kind of like the motivational speaker. He did a motivational kind of. It's not like a necessarily a book, but you can find it on. And I recommend everybody who has kids and not just kids to listen to this book on Audible. It's called The Psychology of Achievement by Brian Tracy, and we're talking about what would be my best advice for kids, and that would be to love your kids so much. And what Brian teaches in this book is to embrace your kids. So, and what I mean by that is every time I see my little girl, I just hug them, I love them, I kiss them, I tell them, "Hey, how much does Dad love you?" You know, how, and she'll do her arms like this much. Does Dad still love you um, when you get spankings? Yes. Does Dad still love you when he says no? Yes. Right. Your kids like almost like find their security within your parents' love for them, right, at such a young age.
Mhm.
And that so, and because I listened to that book, I wouldn't have probably parent like this unless I listened to this, and I've listened to it now several times because I have embraced my kids so much. Now my daughter literally probably like every half an hour just says, "Dad, I love you. Dad, I love you," because I repeat it to her, and I show. Another thing too is we start discipline early. So my son, he's about to turn 2. Like he knows what timeouts are. Timeouts
Mhm.
are go to the wall. And again, I'm not perfect in that, but he goes to the wall, he stares at the wall, hands at his side, timeout. Right? He knows what timeouts are. And what we do after those timeouts, though, is that we embrace them. So we come over, we explain to him, and this is why my little girl, we did the same thing with my little girl. So she'll go to timeout, and then she'll come back to us, and then we say, do we know why we want a timeout? We'll explain why we want a timeout, and then I just love them. I just hold them. I embrace them because sometimes they think that obviously like, hey, are you pushing me away, right? Too many parents, and our parents probably had our kids, right? A lot of my parents would push us away, push us away. No, we love our kids, right? So we punish them, we embrace them, um, and I want to make it very clear that, and because I can give two craps probably about grades, right? But what I want to let you already know, my little girl in her kindergarten, she's already gotten awards for being like an amazing individual.
Yep.
So instead of obviously So it's the characters that we're building in her.
Hmm.
Our teachers just love her because of the person she is. So loving and caring and kind, and she helps out others. You know what I mean? So they got these things called like lion paws in school. She gets like a crap ton of lion paws because she's always serving others. We have core values that me and my girl talk about. So when we drive to school and I drop her off, we talk about, hey, what are our core values? And then we pray to God before we go to school every single morning. So our core values are we're strong, we're confident, we're go-getter, we're go-giver, and we're a leader, and we're kind to others. So like she could say that verbatim. She says it super quick every morning. And so what we do is we always go back onto it. So if she's not being like, let's say she's not sharing, we go, hey, aren't we a go-giver? Hey, do we need to be kind of, I don't have to talk to her too much about that one, but sometimes like about being a leader. What does it mean to be a leader? My love, and we'll talk about being
What
a
does
leader.
it mean?
What's that?
What does it mean?
Stand up when somebody is, for example, maybe she is other kids. So she'll come to home and she'll say like, hey, one of my kids, somebody's being mean to a kid. What will we do in that situation to maybe show others that it's not okay to be mean to this individual? Right. And she'll tell me, we'll talk about it in that kind of situation. So, but that goes back into business. You need to have core values in your business. We have 3 core values in our business, and that is growth minded, competitive greatness, and extreme ownership. And they all complement each other. So I always like to say when I do my one-on-ones with my team, and maybe when somebody's not performing or whatever, we go back to our core values. I hear it in their calls too with our mission statement. We have a very short mission statement, and it's to be excellent, it's to be ethical, it's to build lasting relationships with the people that you talk to over the phone. And so they're able to, so they'll like vent, because I make it such a big deal during our working hours, but they'll like talk to buyers and be like, hey, I just want to let you know we're an ethical business. I'm going to give you the most exponential service. I am trying to build a lasting relationship with you. So I hear these things because obviously I drill it into all of them. And but that's why every company, and when you first start, you should have core values and a mission statement and keep it short so they remember it.
That's a good job to
So,
keep it short. And it doesn't matter what values you have; it's the fact that you have values
right.
is
True.
what I've heard a lot too. Because
I like that.
it's very tough to create values out of nothing when you're just don't have a business at all. It's just you, right? So, but the important thing was like, well, what are my values? And I pulled on experiences that I had that were negative from past small companies that I worked at, and thought, well, I definitely want the opposite of that. So
Yeah.
a lot of my values came from like some of those experiences. Just throwing ideas out there for anybody trying to come up with values.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, I had like 9 core values at one time, and I was like, I gotta condense these.
yeah. What would you be doing if you like hadn't found real estate? Would you still be a firefighter, or do you
Yeah,
think you were entrepreneurial and you'd be doing Amazon drop shipping or something?
that's right. Yeah, man. I would have found something. So when I first got into, and I think all of us entrepreneurs, we think about different ways we could make more money. So when in that time before I found wholesaling, I was thinking of different ways. When I was in the fire department, all I was doing was brainstorming. What are other ways? Like I thought about like making like a hot dog shop. I thought about buying a laundromat and doing a chain of those. Like I was thinking, okay, like what can I do to make more money? What business can I start to have basically what can I build it? What side hustle can I start building? And wholesaling is just what I found and kind of got right into.
More money than hot dogs.
Yeah. But it's just an example. I
Yeah.
thought about several different ideas, and wholesaling is the one I decided to pursue.
What would you say to somebody who says, now it's too late to get invested in real estate?
Now it's too late. Definitely not. It's always, real estate's real estate, and I would say don't do it in my market. And no, it's obviously it's not too late to. I would say if you want to get your first deal though, download DealMachine, go find an ugly house, call that person, text that person. But if you have no money, that's the best way to get your first deal.
Well, I definitely appreciate that you use DealMachine, especially in the beginning. We grew 44% this year because of the data that
Wow.
we came out with this past year.
Incredible.
And so I just didn't know if you knew about that.
That's incredible, dude.
So we have a lot of consumer data
Okay.
that, so if somebody
I
was
did not know that.
skip tracing 10,000 records, it costs them $1,000. It's included, with your DealMachine subscription. And it's not just random phone numbers. It's actually a whole file on every person in the US, what
Okay.
properties they own, what properties they rent, their relatives, if they have dogs,
Really?
what their credit card limits are, what their spending habits are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
There you
so what
go.
their occupation group is. So it's been really powerful. I think a lot of people just came because like the skip tracing is, I mean, it's much cheaper, right? You could
Mm.
export 100,000 leads per month on like the $500 a month plan. You could do like the deep research
Mm.
and um,
So you going like two different directions. Obviously, you got your Driving for Dollars kind of app, and now you're just like, are you like a data provider as well now?
well, it's one app
Right.
essentially,
Right. Okay.
but most of the growth has come from the data that we've like been working hard on. Most, I mean, it still does driving for dollars, but
Yeah.
most of the growth has come from data. So that was
Wow.
44% last year. So I mean, I think more than half the people are not driving for dollars, but they're using data.
How are they using this data? Like, what are they doing with it?
Well, very basic. I mean, the skip tracing is believe it or not, I mean, it's better
Okay.
because it's not just random phone numbers. It's linking it to a person who has like 20 data points about just that person.
Mm.
So it's really good. The connections we're able to make result in you could export those skip tracing.
Right. Right.
Yeah, leads. So and it again, it would save you like $1,000 on like 10. If you were spending $1,000, like you could get
Yeah.
the same amount of skip tracing exported for $100.
What do you recommend people to do with the data? And I say that, I mean, like, are you telling people still to cold call, text, like, because I don't do any cold outreach anymore.
Yeah.
One thing we do, I mean, we kind of do
Oh,
with
do you do mail?
so we do mail.
Okay.
We're gonna pick that up heavily with Jason Lewis. So we're gonna be doing mail, but other than that, we don't do any really cold outreach anymore.
Okay.
So what do you do? What do you recommend for people to do?
I mean, most people, they're making cold calls,
Okay.
right? You can do that in DealMachine as well.
Oh,
So there's
nice.
an
You have
AI
like a dial and
dialer
everything.
that tells you, well, the AI is listening, it takes notes.
Oh wow.
It says like, well, this lead should be marked as warm or hot based on the
Mm,
conversation. So you don't have to worry about the person making the calls executing that.
yeah.
And then it'll summarize it as well as
What?
say the full transcript. For a beginner, it like a lot of people don't get on the phone because they don't know what to say.
Right.
And then if they have a script, then they don't listen to the conversation. But so in real time, you kind of view the
Yep.
transcript and you could just press, what do I say? And it knows where you're at in the combo and what you should say next. So that's a helpful thing as well, that people are using.
What do you think about AI cold calling? You think we're there yet?
No, I don't think the voice. No, I could tell if it's an AI
Yeah.
person.
I try that with lead manager stuff already, and it was all right.
No, I wouldn't waste. I think you're wasting money that you use to buy the data to even target that person in the first place. So
Mm,
I wouldn't suggest that.
for sure.
Now we do have an AI voicemail, so it's trained to sound like you or whoever's making the calls,
Yeah.
and then it would personalize it to that person's name and the property.
Okay.
And it's really great because phone companies mark like numbers as spam, and then people don't answer when it shows likely spam on their cell phone.
Yeah.
So being able to leave a voicemail without spending the time to leave a voicemail is advantageous because it increases the average call duration and the connection rate. So that's what Verizon uses
Mm-hmm.
to figure out if like somebody's like a scammer or telemarketer. Do they have a high or do they have a low call duration rate and do they have a low connection rate? Because all those like triple quad line dialers that have a vanity metric that, oh, you're making 100 calls every
Right.
20 minutes. Well, they trash your reputation of your numbers with the cell carriers. So they get marked as spam and then nobody's answering those calls.
Yeah.
So the voicemail, it also helps that metric because it counts as a call connection and it counts as more duration. That's like 20 to 30 seconds as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that was a good tool that people came out with. I was helping Chad Young find double lots because he
Okay.
was telling me in Spokane, Washington, they were never able to target double lots, but they actually just a lot of their best deals were properties that had double lots. And as long as they could even break even on just the flip of the house, they'd split the lot off and have an $80,000 piece of land right there that they could just sell or build on.
There you
So
go.
yeah, through DealMachine's data, I like told them how to find the double lots. And
Oh,
it has
okay.
to do in his county with the legal description. So they always abbreviate lots LTS. So if you search for LTS in the legal description, then you'd see right after it 10 and 12. Well, you know, it's like 2 lots.
Mm.
So we helped him do that. I think 8 people wanted that when I shared that with CG.
Nice.
And in some counties, they're different. So in San Diego, I could take a look if you're ever interested in that. But you don't
sure.
do mail or anything like that. You just do inbound, right?
Like I said, we do mail.
Oh, you do mail. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Well, yeah, I could pull that for you if you were curious about that.
Do you know any like what would be like a great cold call service? Do you know any people who's like ethical, reliable for a cold call service? So if I wanted to take your data and then throw it over to a cold call service to produce me some leads, who do you think?
Yeah, right now I just had Nick on the podcast,
Okay.
and he runs lead mining.
Oh, lead mine.
So
Okay, yeah.
yeah, I just hired 40 hours of calling from him 2 weeks ago.
Mm,
And the part of the challenge there was like they were using a triple line dialer,
yeah.
and I wanted to show them that the data with the single line dialer and the AI voicemail is much better connection rate, 25% connection rate. It doesn't matter how many calls he's doing with his quad line dialer, it would be better.
Wow.
Yeah. So I
okay.
just hired him to do that. So
Okay.
that's as
So
far
follow
as
up.
as far as hiring people, I definitely believe he's ethical. I feel like I knew the guy because he posts every day on social media.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I would want to make sure whoever is uses like a tidy script.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like he was like doing the right things.
Okay.
You don't want to talk about selling stuff on the initial call.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about Ryan Pineda's company is the top cold calling case.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they got sued, they won because they
Mm.
weren't selling anything.
Right.
And if you look at any other, I think there's been really like 8 investors over the past like 4 or 5 years that like had lawsuits. Any of the ones that lost, it was because they didn't have a tidy script. It was because they were selling something on the do not call list.
Right.
Text messages, especially even worse, because
Yeah.
people will put their website and then the website will say, we'll select title. And then that is like basically advertising, oh, you're providing a service to select the title company. So you just don't talk about anything like that on the initial call.
Okay.
Yeah. So you want to make sure you're with somebody that like understands you're just offering to purchase, and like that's how strict the call needs to be.
What company are you using for texting? Like,
I don't text.
okay, no
Dude,
text.
if you look at TCPA cases,
It's
9 out of
ridiculous.
10 are texting cases.
Wow.
I would
okay,
just not
there
text.
You go. Yeah, we don't text right now. I'm just wondering. So
I
cold
don't
call.
even think a lot of those go through anymore either, because the carriers have spam filtering.
Right.
Where like they can mark calls as spam, but they're not blocking calls. But the texting is literally getting blocked through like spam filters like email.
Yeah. And it was good while it lasted.
Yeah, it was, but it's that marketing cycle, and you have to
Yep.
find out what works next.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other data thing I was able to help was Luke Caraccio in Arizona. Do you know
Okay.
this guy?
No.
I found him because he just hired a comedian to make a video about his wholesaling company. And
Okay.
so I reached out to him. The guy's name is, I have to come back to it. Chip Ferguson is the fake character that the
Okay.
comedian has. It's like a very well-known character. Came in the office. He was doing like a call with a seller who had like a mobile home for sale. But anyway,
Yeah.
Luke's whole strategy is direct to agent.
Okay.
So just like you were saying, that's a bigger profit margin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Luke was like, well, the title company gives us the agents, but can you give us the agents by listing volume? And we want to build a CRM of like more info about the person, not just like the company or the brokerage. So then I was able to pull all the LinkedIn profiles for all the agents like listed by their deal volume in the last year. And then he also got if they own pets, spending habits,
Is that
properties that they own. It's all data from DealMachine. I was able to pull for him as an example.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's it. And when I heard about that double odd thing, I just pulled that list for myself too. I was like, I gotta mail to that list.
What's your hottest list right now off your data?
I mean, the best deal I ever did was the tax delinquent.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an orthodontist in Utah. He had 5 properties that he bought 3 years ago in Indianapolis.
Nice.
And he overpaid a bit, and then his contractor disappeared. He's making so much money in Utah. He's like, I don't know what to do with these properties.
Mhm.
And I bought it for $20,000 less than he paid, and he paid his back taxes. And so it was a great deal for me.
Nice.
Yeah, $100,000 on. I did the rehab.
Okay. Is that where you're buying all your properties?
I did the rehab and ended up selling it. Yeah, I used to live there. I have 19 rentals there, and I want to keep adding to the rental portfolio. Unfortunately, I couldn't keep that one because it was just a little bit too expensive to keep as a rental there.
Okay.
And cash flow, but sold it. And so, I mean, that was a great list. recommend that.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna check that out. Check your data and give it to the cold caller. Leave mine.
I'll send it to you, no cost.
There you go.
For real.
In
Yeah,
Southern
wherever you
California.
want. Yeah. The agent list or the double lot if you want
Okay.
either of those, or I
There
don't
we
know
go.
what else you want. But
I appreciate it, man.
yeah. What are you looking forward to most this year?
This year is just doubling revenue again, man. Building the team and doubling revenue, staying lean and mean.
What needs to be true to double it? Like, do you literally just need
Great question.
doubling the marketing budget, more appointment
That's
setters?
pretty much it.
Really?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, doubling the marketing budget and probably like one more acquisition guys, and then getting them up to really producing. Just lean and mean. We just need probably like 4 to 5 acquisition guys, probably to hit that 8-figure mark that I'm looking for. Because we do 6-figure deals every month.
What do you do first? Marketing budget or new guy?
Yeah, right. It's a flow of things, right? The cool thing with marketing, right? You could raise it, you could lower it, depending on the skill level, I think, of our acquisition guys, right? So when you hire somebody, you can't expect them to start really producing for 90 days, right? So and then another thing too is that you got to have a certain amount of individuals on that, because one person might not produce it and 2 people might be carrying them. One person might quit, and then you got to. So it's a constant like training, and you got to be prepared for turnover and stuff. So we're obviously always trying to build that culture to be great. We want to make sure there's a great book out there called The Sales Accelerator, where it teaches you how to build that sales culture. Also another book called Sales Management Simplified. This is a book I just read. So we're really trying to always build that culture to create those wins. Because I had a good buddy of mine that told me a lot of salespeople don't really care too much always about the more money, even though that's what they say.
If they make 100, they're happy to be chill. Just chill, right? And just keep making 100, not work harder to make 200.
Well, they care more about the trophies. They care more about
Gotcha.
the bragging rights, and
Okay.
you know what I mean. You got a guy who would make 250,000. Like I had a guy who made 250,000 last year, but to have him break that 300,000 or 350,000, it's like, well, hey, let's get you. So what we do is we do belts, we have trophies, we have we do company trips. So if we hit our quarterly goal, we have obviously the sales board and all that stuff. So just a bunch of different types of competitions. So that's just sales.
Competition is more important than the extra money sometimes.
Yep, 100%.
That's smart.
They care more about the little trinkets than actually making more sometimes.
Chris, I'm going to ask you a question. What questions do you have that I didn't ask?
David just found this out recently, but I was a month probably or 2 months before finding David. I was like seriously considering being a firefighter.
There you go.
So I was already in fitness. I was like, oh, this is fun. And I was like on Reddit articles, like in forums, like all day reading about like time management and like, you can be a personal trainer, for instance, if you're a 4896 firefighter, right? So it's did you start? I know you're going through like a lot of other personal stuff at that same time.
Yeah.
But like, did you find it like in terms of like time management, like easy or not? I mean, it probably wasn't easy, but like, how'd you juggle like firefighter
and business?
That personal stuff going on and starting that wholesale business.
Well, thank God I was a firefighter, because as a firefighter, it was like 2 days off, 3 days. Sorry, 2 days on, 3 days off, 2 days on, 4 days off. We had a lot of time. We definitely have a lot of time off, but we're also, but we also work a lot of overtime. So sometimes those off days would become overtime. So I was actually working a lot of overtime at that time because I needed to try to afford my new attorney. Actually, another thing too about when I was in the fire department and when you work for somebody else and you're trying to do a side hustle, I got talked to a lot.
Really?
So actually,
because it was throwing you off your main. Was it throwing you off?
Because they saw me work my business when I was at the fire department, and what I did.
They tried to tell you couldn't.
Yeah, they told me to stop working on your business when you were at work, and so there's a few things I did. So actually, the department that I was at, right, specifically, the funny thing is that department, it doesn't happen all across departments, but the one I was at had no Wi-Fi. I actually got Wi-Fi for that department.
Wow.
And what I did is I'd pull off when we were kind of like off. I'd pull my car up close to the station. I'd have my radio in case we got a call, and I would start doing cold calls. And so I'd do cold calls outside of my car. I'd pop open my trunk and I have my laptop open. And I'd make cold calls from the Drive for Dollars list that I was pinning. We'd even go on calls, and I would actually pull up my DealMachine app, and I'd pin the house that we just went on a fire on. It's like,
No
I'd mark it to
way.
the house. Another thing too. So I was at the fire department. Is I would
do a deal like that?
No, I never did the deal, but I would still market to them, and I would have a script, and I remember I would send out direct mail. Wholesale Inc. was very big on it at the time. I'd run out to the back of the fire department, and I would get on the phone, and I would go through my script and like, hey, and I would just, what property, what's the motivation, da 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 da, right? So they kind of saw that, and they all saw it coming, especially when I put in my 2 weeks notice. So
Damn.
it's like, yeah, I could say that I did all these things, but there was a lot of things that obviously a lot of people didn't see. You know what I mean? I broke the law. I broke the limits a little bit. That's
Can you break down like your day going into the fire department and just rerun that back again? So you wake up at, like, I don't know, let's just say you go in at 7 a.m.
Yeah. So the day of the fire department, obviously I wake up early, drive to the fire department, have all my gear, check all my gear. What we do is we do like kind of like a morning huddle. I guess you would call that. I forget what we'd call it, but basically it's just like round table. We just talk about it. We'd go clean the department. We would do trainings. We would do anything that we had to do, and then obviously in the middle of it, you're doing calls, right? So you're doing calls throughout the day, and then usually I think we were off about like 3:30, 4. So that was kind of like downtime. So obviously like recliners and hanging out, do whatever you want, go work out. And then obviously calls. But during my downtime is when I would make the calls and take inbound leads and stuff.
Wow.
When you say calls, you mean like going to a house?
Yeah, like going.
Not cold call.
No, when I mean calls, I'm talking about firefighter calls. Like, medical emergencies, structure fires, wildland fires, whatever.
At what point would you go and pull up your truck though? Like at what point of the day?
Like my truck.
Yeah, 4:30, right?
Like when I pull up to.
When would you make the wholesale calls?
Wholesale calls?
Yeah.
Like I said, about 4:30 after
okay.
During my downtime, 3:30, 4:30, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Again, that was
crazy.
like 5 years ago, so yeah, it was fun though. But young man's game. I'm glad I'm out of it.
Right. Well, I was looking. It's like when I was learning about firefighting. It's like, yeah, it's like the salaries are way different across the whole country. I didn't know that.
They are, and also even in different counties. So like,
well, California's pretty good, right?
Well, I was in San Diego area. I mean, like I remember Orange County was paid really well. LA County was okay. Riverside County is okay. Like even the different counties paid different. So it just depends on. I mean, it was definitely a fun career. But then I also looked at the chief. You know what I mean? So I was like, if I keep leveling up and I get promoted, right? I was a firefighter. Then the next promotion would be engineer to captain to assistant chief to chief, and it's like I was just like, he didn't make as much more than
right.
Like there was nothing. I didn't want to. You always want to ask yourself, do I want to switch my, like, obviously I'm going to take advice from David Lecco here because I would rather be in his position rather than like my firefighter chief's position. I want to be like, how did he get there? So I'm going to take advice from him. So that's how I looked at my chief. I was like, if I was in your seat, I really don't care.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's the only one I had off the top, just because it was relatable.
But a lot of people do businesses. I know a lot of firefighter buddies who do wholesale and stuff like that on the side.
Really?
Stuff. But that's what I mean. Obviously, I went full on in to be able to come to events like this and this scale.
What kind of schedule was it? Like 24, 48, 48, 96?
I did 48, 72.
48, 72.
That was my specific one, but there's difference across. But you usually get a lot of off time.
What does that mean?
Work 2 days.
40 hours off, 3 days on.
No, 2 days on, 3 days off. Okay. And then some people work 1 day on, 4 days off. You know what I mean? Like every department's a little different.
But it's usually 48, 96 though, right? Or do you have the California schedule is different though? Actually,
every county, every department is a little different. It just depends.
Huh.
But most of the time, most departments are pretty much the same. Where obviously you work a couple days, you're off a lot of days. You work a couple days, you're off a lot of days. But those lot of days are pretty cool because what happens is it's a good time to take overtime. You get paid a lot of overtime. I remember working a lot of overtime with Trump coming out with no overtime taxing. I mean, geez, because when you do overtime, every day you did overtime, like your check went more and more down. And yeah, I wish Trump had this no taxes on overtime back when I was in the fire department.
Yeah.
Because every day you did overtime, it increase the tax rate?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I would make, let's call it $1,200 one day, and then the next day it would be like $800, and then if I worked the third day of overtime, it'd be $600. It was like ridiculous. Like the taxes would just destroy your overtime pay.
And especially in California, because I know here overtime would be 30% tax. I think, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
30%. Regular pay is
It's
20.
like 30, 35.
Yeah, that's crazy, huh? That's it. I can't believe that you hosed down the house and then pulled up their address on DealMachine. That's crazy.
That's right. I'd hop back in the engine. I'd pull up. I'd have my phone, and I would pull up the DealMachine. And I'd boop. Those were the good days.
That's
man.
crazy. That's a hack. That's it.
I never got a deal though.
Ah.
Doing that. But yeah, thank you, man, for creating this app.
You're welcome.
All right, man.
All right.
Well, thanks again so much for having me.
Yeah. Again.
Hell yeah, dude.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.